everybody knew what a downwinder was. We were the anti-nuclear capital of the world. I was an autistic kid.
She ruined Weber State
My
University.
father was a drafted United States Marine, an incredible man. I come from an incredible family. My uncle stood on Omaha Beach on D-Day. I grew up on a huge ranch by the lake. He was a beautiful, incredible person.
The Pentagon was running the media.
He was at
They all said it.
Pentagon,
Back in
combat
2003,
ready,
we got so much trouble and
and
took so much
they were
shit.
human guinea pig. They were
And
marched
then
into
here
the
this
trenches.
comes out.
They're
It's all
called the
gaslighting.
Tommy veterans.
You know, we're talking what?
He nearly
How many
died
years
at the
later?
blast.
What's the year today?
Between 1951 and 1968, we had 300 open-air tests. Well, as different scientists started to write about this, Wallace Stegner was at the
12 years,
University
and
of
everybody's
Utah
like,
at the time.
oh, so we
got
don't
to know
care
him.
what you changed the entire course
Robert
of
Abbey was
humanity.
hanging around here. I got to know
Yesterday
him.
was the 70th anniversary
I got to
of
know
the
all
Ulster
these environmentalists, and I was an environmentalist, and
When they divided
there was a
up the
passion,
world.
intense
Tell 'em
subject
first
matter
word.
there.
All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck.
Churchill in the house didn't want no part of that. Churchill was dancing. He drank
311, whatever you
freaking
want
bottles
to
of
call it.
cognac
Call it
that
Pacific
day.
genocide, whatever. It's fucking giant conspiratorial across all demographics.
Because Churchill
All
was the odd man
nuclear
out.
fighters, all
House
hands
window
on
was
deck,
open.
all hands on deck, all hands on deck. They'll be calling you a radical. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck,
7 years
all
ago
hands on
yesterday.
deck, all hands on deck. Boomgate, 311, whatever you want to call it. I call it Pacific genocide, whatever. It's fucking giant conspiratorial across all demographics. They'll be calling you a radical.
Oh boy, it was major.
God have mercy on
There was a
all
lot of
souls.
propaganda going there.
Nuclear
It wasn't
power
just
was
him.
evolving. We were promised, oh, this can't happen.
Gotta work. Here we go. Sorry about that. Horrible connection. Anytime we got big news, we get a horrible connection, huh? And if you don't believe me that the Pentagon and the NSA run this country, I was going crazy in 2003. I went so crazy in 2003. I had a sticker on my car right here in Kool-Aidville, Utah, where it said, Bush lied, soldiers died. I mean, 10 fights a day. I was a professor in those days at the #1 school business on the heels of the death of Clark Cooley. I'm going crazy in my classroom. I got a visit by the CIA. I got a visit by the dean of the university. I was told to stand down. I'm like, this is war propaganda. This is pure war propaganda. So it took us how many? 12 years later. 12 years later, they gaslighted every single one of you. I was going crazy. Brian Williams is lying. He's being fed by the freaking war propaganda machine. This is out of the old playbook. That he was in no helicopter. And all these stories, every one of these stories, I'm like, they're lying, they're lying, they're lying, they're lying. Patriot Act freaking trumped the freaking First Amendment of the United States Constitution. They backdoored this land and handed it back to the House of Windsor. I'm like, they're lying. They're lying. Oh, and I was considered crazy. Oh, Code Peak was considered crazy. Everybody was considered crazy. We were all nuts. We were radicals, whatever. Huh, how crazy are we now? Look, too late? Absolutely too late. Wow. It comes out all over. Brian Williams, in public, apologized for lying. Now, is it Brian Williams' fault? Of course it's his fault. But here's what I always say. Yeah, he was told by the Pentagon, I'm sure threatened with his career, because if you don't play ball, you're done. And if you don't believe me, ask Dan Rather. Dan Rather, the greatest journalist in 100 years in this country. Bar none. Dan Rather and Walter Cronkite are single-handedly responsible for putting the end to the war. Well, the populace that rose up, the great war protesters of the time, the music, the culture, the thesis, which they all gave it all up. So, they got rich, all these, great music writers, all these great things, they never really did believe it, those guys, including Springsteen, every last one of them. Down 7th Avenue, that boxer, what a fraud he turned out to be. They all turned out to be frauds because they got the money and they bought them. And last one in shut the door. It's disgusting. It's sickening that the American populace is that gone. They are really, truly that ignorant. They are gone. Now, yesterday, the 70th anniversary of Yalta, What y'all said? Wow. We were warned this by my history professors when I was a boy and when I was young. I remember that they warned us. As the World War II veterans die, this will end. This whole dynamic will come to an end because people will forget history. They will try to rewrite history, which they're absolutely trying to do. I'm not going to let them. Not here in Utah. I got big plans. I have a lot of things. We're working on a giant historical fresco. We're doing a lot of work. They're not rewriting history. They think they are. But the power of YouTube, now YouTube's a crowded, messy, ridiculous place, and 99.9999% of everything all over social media is as worthless as my dad would say, tits on a boar hog. Totally worthless. It is the analysis of the analysis, the epic regurgitators that just smear the whole freaking landscape. They don't report anything new. They don't report anything controversial. It's like people want to pull back me on the screenshots and the video content coming off Fukushima. Of course I'm going to report that because it's breaking cutting-edge news. Now, will history sort it out? No, we're going to sort it out right here, right now. So, Yalta, they're by the sea. They're at the Winter Palace. Let's make no mistake about the Russian fight, the Hungarian dynasty, the Austrian dynasty, the Ottoman Empire that stood for how long? Let's not kid ourselves. What did the Russians go through? Who won World War II? The Russians. United States, absolutely. Their industrial complex and their big time on Balco. You think, you know how many bombers were coming off the assembly line at Ford? 1-point-something million components, one every 63 minutes. It was an incredible what the United States was able to do. Now, remember Lend-Lease? People forget about Lend-Lease. Lend-Lease, which you think about it, was negotiated through the Masonic thesis. You know, the Masonic deal was all struck, and then the fracture in the Masonic, and I'll write about this. Winston Churchill and FDR, that was all a backdoor deal. Lend-Lease handed the Queen all her military hardware. She didn't have shit. But Churchill, no way, wanted him to sign Lend-Lease with Russia, too, which they did. People forget, because they've been so incorporated into the communist thesis, which, boy, did they hijack that word. Engel wrote freaking the Communist Manifesto, not Karl Marx. I mean, the whole thing, which was really incorporated out of the Mormon thesis, they did the same thing. It's called the United Order. You know, commonism. You know, social. I mean, don't you love all these isms they throw on these things, and they hijack the language and the propaganda machine? Now, Teller, the Hungarian. Remember the Hungarian Teller who took the field? They pushed Oppenheimer. Oh, he's a communist. They pushed Einstein completely out. Why? Oh, they were peace activists. So, at Yalta, 7 years ago, the deal was struck. It was the deal. It's as freaking plain as the nose on your face. It's very well recorded in the history of the deal. Russia took all of Eastern Europe. Why did Russia take all of Europe? Who gave it to them? Nobody gave it to them. What, you going to fight that war machine? Really? They were, what, 28 million men. You got to realize to have this war dynamic. You know, Stalin? Oh, I'm no fan of Stalin's, but let's get real. So they're dividing it up. You think they just handed them anything? Oh, no. They weren't about to fight that machine. United States coming off of it. You got to realize the United States was 18th in military power before World War III, before the bomb. So the deal was struck. Okay, you got it, Stalin. We'll hand you it. Churchill is having fits. But let's remember the Atlantic Conference. The deal in the Atlantic Conference in inception, which evolved into the UN, what was the original deal? The original deal was this. There are no monarchies. They're over. Hasta la vista, baby. They're done. They're all done. Taking them all out. Winston won no part of that. He's the House of freaking Marlborough. He's the House of Windsor. He's the point man. So that was the deal. But the English played like they always play, the royals, the elitists. They freaking play long ball, passive aggressive, the same way they played again. Okay, you say whatever you want, do you want, but we will backdoor the deal. Now, who would ever believed it? They're done. Churchill knows they're done at freaking Yalta. They're getting nothing. The English are getting nothing out of this deal. The royals are over. It's over. The freaking House of Windsor, after all those years, has crumbled. It is nothing but a shell. It's done. The monarchy is over. All monarchies are over. He knows it. Stalin knows it. FDR knows it. It's over. The world's divided up. The United States is taking Japan. But here's the deal that was struck. Okay, Stalin, you did it. You take all of Eastern Europe. Do what the hell you want. But here's the thing. You help us finish the job against Japan. And let's make no mistake. All you people say, they should have never dropped the bombs. All those poor Japanese, everything. Let's get real about the Japanese. For how long? The imperialist nation, the greatest imperialist in the history of humanity was the Japanese. You know what they did to the Koreans? You know what they did to the Philippines? You know what they did to China for years and years and years and years? The atrocities, they were evil. Pure evil, that Shogun freaking system that had run it, pure evil. The evilest empire in the history of mankind, no doubt. There is absolutely no doubt. They were even more evil than the freaking Third Reich, which, why do you think they joined up together? They had the same imperialistic, psychotic freaking idealism as Hitler. Hitler was a psycho, a freaking high IQ, mentally ill, insane, bloodthirsty psycho. But so was the Emperor of Japan. Hardcore psycho. So, okay, FDR knew that Stalin and the Russians were freaking right on the edge of they had their own Manhattan Project going in the Ukraine. He knew it. I mean, let's not be naive. He knew it. By the way, it's still there in disarray. There's a war going on in the Ukraine. Everybody says, World War III started, which I call it World War IV. You know, what was Einstein's quote? You know, it's coming to fruition. What's World War IV going to be fought with? Sticks and stones? Here we go. It's exactly 100. It used to be sickos at the War College in the United States, and America is overlooking this. The United States sent in advisors and hardware. Sound familiar? Almost to the day of Black Hand killing the Austrian royal. The beginning, which has started right there in Crimea. Here we go again, full circle. You know how much nuclear waste blazing the Ukraine? You know how many nuclear reactors are there? It's beyond scary. There's a war going on. The greatest human atrocities in the world right now are going on in the Ukraine. Those people don't even have water. They're boiling rainwater. They have no heat. Putin cut off the supply. And then on the western side, now get this, John Kerry, the war machine, and the so-called, your New World Order, your freaking Illuminati, which is old world order. It's as old as Babylon and evil as hell. Michael Savage and these people were paid to freaking do this. The Pentagon took over the United States media. I call it the military coup of 2000. You can laugh all you want about that. It's a fact. Bush stole the election. He didn't win. Why did Gore stand down? Gore, the bloodlines of Burr. He was told to stand down. Oh, we'll make you rich, and you can befriend your green. You can make a movie and all. You can co-opt these fake freaking environmentalists, which they're all fake. They're all fake. Keystone and, Al Gore set up showing how green he is. Why he built a house, 8,000 square feet, that sucks up, more than 8, what am I talking about? 50,000 square feet, sucks up $8,000 worth of freaking energy a month. Tipper, the human rights activist that she was, divorced his ass. Why? Because he tries to rape not one, but 2 massage therapists separately. Gavin in San Francisco stands down. Why? Because he's told to stand down. This is a military state. The United States is a military state. It is the colony of the House of Windsor. It is the military colony. FDR would be rolling over in his grave. Now let's remember, in April, they divided, okay, we're going to share it. We're going to drop. By the way, the bomb was going to be loaded right here in Wendover, which I do my stuff out there. I stand right in Teller's office when I do my videos, and I time them to the exact, and I've done it for 35. I'm by myself. When I do those protests, I'm all alone. Patrick McCormick came up, that artist, last year. He and I stood in the damnedest freaking rainstorm you ever seen last year and made that great video where he's playing the guitar. That's in front of the hangar. So the deal was struck. Yes, it's because they were out there practicing. They had it all ready. on Wendover, Utah. Had it all done, ready to go. That's the part of the Manhattan Project everybody doesn't know about. They forgot. I didn't forget. The Manhattan Project never stopped making rice. Oak Ridge, Tennessee, Y12, Y25, Los Alamos, Wendover, Utah. So the deal was struck. Okay, we fly it out, fly to the island. We move the plane. The deal wasn't negotiated. The bomb goes on to the Russian plane. Now Jetson, who I interviewed, the last living member of the crew, just passed. I did a video out there, right there. I'm the only one, the only media that went out there and did anything the day he died this year. That's the beauty of YouTube. It's historical. It's recorded. It's branded in history, and you can't change it. You can change the tags and the names all you want, but the published date, which has been, by the illegitimate Supreme Court, has been ruled. You have digital copyright law that it mirrors literature copyright with a YouTube video with digital copyright mirrors literature copyright law. It's published, it's gilded in gold, it's cast in concrete for time and all eternity. You can take it down, you can mix it, but that freaking copyright, that published freaking copyright is there. So, that was the deal. But what happened? FDR dropped dead at Warm Springs in April '45. Changed the freaking fate of this world? Oh boy, on Balco. First words out of Stalin's mouth, who poisoned him? Churchill was dancing. He drank 4 bottles of cognac that morning instead of his usual. You know how wasted that dude was before breakfast? You know how much alcohol went into that guy's freaking body a day? I'm talking for breakfast. He was so wasted, he didn't know where the hell he was at. So, he's dancing in the streets. The House of Windsor was having parties. They lit off fireworks inside the freaking, palace. They never were so happy. They knew, we have a chance. We're not over. When Hitler said inside his bunker, I told you the war wasn't over. Of course, he was happy. He was in denial. His 1,000-year Reich. Remember his 1,000-year Reich? Didn't even make it 12 years. So, we got a chance. It's not over. The English royals are going to rule the world still. The colonialism, which FDR said it over, and colonialism is done. That was the deal struck at the Atlantic Conference. That was the deal. They completely backdoored that. How did they do it? And people don't want, I'll write my books, but something happened to way to that place. They threw a nuclearism flag in my face. What happened? Oh, I got leukemia on the way. Oh, because that choice that was made that day killed my father. It gave me leukemia. It's a fact. It's like people say, oh, you can't prove there's no data out there that the radiation gives you cancer and mutates your genetic pool. Oh, that's such a bullshit. The American freaking data that is gathered all over. The American data that's gathered all over by the United States military, by the Department of Energy. I post it all over, on my website, everywhere. It's hardcore, very good data. Proves all this. Proves every bit of it. Some people, oh, we don't have it. The fuck, they don't have it. It's right in your face. Because America is too stupid and too dogma and too ignorant to even accept reality. They could give shit about the truth. The United States, everybody says, oh, false flags. You know, bullshit. You false flag geeks. They put the truth right in your face, but you're too fucking ignorant and dogmatic to accept the fucking truth. You don't want the truth. You make up the truth because it's the way you want it, because it's dogma. There's never been dogma like this in the history of mankind. These are people that think they know a lot that know shit. So, that deal's done. FDR's dead. Now, remember, at the Democratic Convention, Wallace was the VP, right? The socialist. Remember Wallace? For all those years, he's VP. What the hell happened? Truman? Warmonger Truman? Wow, that was negotiated. Eugene McCarthy, freaking radicals, freaking, the war machine, the profiteers, they were getting power again. They got rich in World War I, II. Again. They took the field. They forced him out. They knew that FDR was getting to the end of it. They knew there was rumors going along that his heart ticker was bad, which it was. People knew. Inside the military, they knew. There's a very high probability he dies in office on his 4th term. They knew. They knew if he died in office, you can't have Wallace. You know, God forbid. The war profiteers are done. The capitalists are done. So they find Truman. FDR drops dead. Truman's like, the House of Windsor, the House haven't got Truman in their hip pocket. Them fucking commies. We have to build a new enemy. Who's the new enemy? Oh, the Russians. Really? Really? Gonna go down that road. So they go down that road. They don't let the Russians in on it. You know how pissed Stalin was? You know how their project had it. They had it. They already had it, by the way. So Sakharov, who won a real Nobel Peace Prize, Stalin says, oh yeah, these fuckers do not want to watch this. So they drop one. They drop two. They're going to drop three, by the way, against Oppenheimer's freaking orders. One's enough. You know, they would not. The emperor would not stand down. Why did they not go after and just kill the emperor? We don't kill kings in the United States. Tell that to Saddam Hussein, who we created. We hung him so hard we ripped his head off his shoulders. This is a military state, and tell people and historians wake up, and they can laugh all they want. The military coup. Now, 2003, I'm going psycho about this stuff. I'm like, oh my God, the Patriot Act, they backdoored the entire Constitution. This is illegal. You cannot amend the Constitution with a simple majority. It has to be 2/3 in both houses. You know, you can't do this. I'm going crazy about it. I got a visit. Told to stand down and shut up. Did I stand down and shut up? Nope. I said, Brian Williams is lying. You know this is their lies. You know they're being fed this entire, all the media is being fed the media. TASS. This is nothing more than state-run media by the military. This is a military coup. This is Grubel on Balco. People are too stupid to realize this in America. They still don't see it. They're working. So take a look at the budget. Now, this is just the transparent part of the budget. The transparent part of the budget right now, that is to military. That doesn't count nuclearism. That doesn't count the Patriot Act. I'm telling you, upwards of 80% of your tax dollars are going to the military complex. Beware of the freaking military industrialized complex. You think that's a cliche? Oh, no. It's here, right here. How do you back out? It's going to take something catastrophic now because it is the economy. Everybody works for them. You know, the unemployment rate's the lowest ever. Really? Really? The unemployment's low? No, it's not. Look up the participation rate. That's the way you get the real number. There are contemporary Americans so homeless and you know, now they've freaking adjusted or died. People don't drink like they did themselves to death like they did in the 30s. No, they pill pop. They drive up to the drive-up pharmacy and they let freaking Merck and the medical freaking pill complex kill you. Take pills and don't wake up. They changed the laws and the obituaries in this country, which you think how insane is that? There are very good reasons why you have to put a freaking obituary in your paper and you have to list the cause of death for these very set reasons. So you can't cover up these epidemics that go on, these suicide epidemics that go on, these pill popping. You can't fake your own death. Oh, no. By law, you have to have a death certificate, and it has to say the cause of death by law in this country for all those years, and not now. Utah has backdoored the law. People are faking their deaths all over. You think Kenneth Lay's dead? I don't think so. You know, it's so easy. It's just like here. Everybody says, oh, we're crazy. We're crazy. You know, Brian Williams, oh, no, he's so credible. We love him because he talks so softly and passively. And by the way, not Brian Williams' fault, but it is his fault. Now, if he would have told him to fuck off, his career's over. Not his career, but it would have killed him. That's a fact. So, it's outrageous. And they all did it. And Dan Rather stood up to him. Look what he did to Dan Rather. The British invasion. Who's the news desk freaking head at CBS News? Right out of the House of Windsor, Brits. You know, CNN, Brits. Fox, Operation Foxconn. They were the head of the snake. Oh, did they grow up on Balco? Rupert Murdoch, right out of the House of Windsor. These are all English royals. These are all elites. So, by FDR dropping dead, and it was an aneurysm in his brain. Yeah, his ticker was bad. He was retiring. If he could only held on for another 6 months, this whole world would have been different. So Sakharov and the Russians are like, oh yeah, fuckers, fuck with us. It was 100 megatons. You think about that, 100 megaton bomb over Siberia. Sakharov says, oh no, it's too big. They won't even be able to draw it. It'll kill the guys dropping it. He backed it off to 50. Oh, they dropped it. The United States Geological Society recorded it as the greatest earthquake in history. Oh, there's been an earthquake in Russia. Most likely Siberia. They were recording it in the tens. They're like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden, the Swedes of all people, because the Swedes were very sophisticated. They had data. Why? Oh, because they had the heavy water plants, and they had a secret system themselves working with Hitler to make a nuclear bomb, which Hitler was never close. Einstein said it was his greatest mistake writing that letter to FDR. They were never close. And by the way, it was the Norwegians who went in and sunk the ship trying to get there. So they started detecting. My God. Look at the detection dish, by the way, killing in droves in Scandinavia. And I would like to say this right now to the Finland activist. He's on his own, and I've got to know him. He has fought the nuclear industry by himself. We're talking one dude over there. He has a tiny, small army. One guy. He has single-handedly put the stop to the nuclear freaking industry over there. He has got Areva kicked out. One guy. You know, and he's a radical. The Finns got hammered by the Tsar bomb. Hammered. It's killing in droves today. Leukemia. So the United States is like, oh my God. So here's Teller, this Hungarian mentally ill piece of it. Teller is Satan. Teller was Satan. Edward Teller was Satan himself. Lawrence, Satan himself. Satan. Mentally ill, high IQ, Teller said at the end of his life, Teller was still the advisor even to Reagan, wanted nuclear tips on Star Wars. For real. Destroy the Hungarian. He knew the fight. You don't think the Hungarians and the Austrians hate Russians? Do you understand the freaking elitist freaking monarchy that existed for how long? The fight between the freaking Russian Empire and the Hungarian Austrian Empire that went on for how long? Those freaking royal monarchies battled each other for centuries. Hate? He said at the end of his life, I don't care what I do in the United States. Well, you allowed 350 open-air tests. You human lab ratted and guinea pigged your own men in that lab. I don't care. As long as I stop the Russians. That's all he cared. He killed my father. Joseph McCarthy and Edward Teller single-handedly murdered my father. Gave me leukemia. Gave a lot of you, and you don't even know it because you're too ignorant, because you don't see it in your face. I said, the Terminator, he's back. By the way, the Terminator itself, Governor of California's father, the SS. Yay, California is the most pathetic, apathetic, false equivalency, think they're smart morons who are walked. They're pathetic. I'm there all the time. The most grandest, most beautiful, ecological freaking place on the face of the earth. God's place. From the sea, whatever God there be, the sequoias, it has it all. They don't care. They think they're smart too. You talk to Calvin, oh yeah, we're green. We're liberal. They're not nothing. They're pathetic. The greatest ecological catastrophes in the world are going on in California. Livermore, Cal Berkeley. I love how Cal Berkeley thinks they're academic. I went to Berkeley. I got kicked out. He done got my personal. I was an honor student. We were high school. They all hated me. Hated my guts. They didn't understand me. But there were people in this town that did understand me. My mind. One single freaking art freaking teacher took me under his wing, and he's like, oh my God. You know, there was a few people that got me, that gave me a chance. You know, I was too young, freaking drunk, my autistic mind. You know, that's how we freaking compensate. Alcohol, sex, whatever, that's how we do it. We have an autism charter school in Utah now, which is built on a super site. Me and that woman's gone at it. They're war profiteers. They're madrasas they're Christian crusading freaking kill factories for the military. They're the military's freaking propaganda machines. You don't believe me? You just read this story about Brian Williams. I told you. And, you know, I called the dean of the university. I said, thank you for blackballing me for telling the truth. Because academia hates the fucking truth. Media, America, you can't handle the fucking truth. Boy, did he call that one. You know, that little weasel dick Tom freaking Scientology, a lunatic cruise. But that line, Jack, that inbred freaking bastard freaking child, you know, his mother and his father are father and daughter. You do know that. He's an incest baby. He's a prick, by the way. I met him one day. I told him to go fuck himself. The girl that I was with right here from Utah went up to her. Very nice, beautiful girl. We were in L.A. She walked up to him and says, hey, Jack, can I get my picture right? Biggest prick in the fucking world, too. I walked up to him and said, you ever talk to her like again, I'll knock your fucking teeth out, I told him, just right to his face. Fuck. I made him tremble in his fucking boots, because that's the way I play. You know, the rest of these they don't play that way. They're like, oh, there's been a terrible tragedy. There's been a horrible tragedy at Fukushima. Gunderson was in my every day comment in the first days trying to tell me it was a hydrogen blast. That's the language they use. False equivalency, freaking so-called anti-nuclear movement, they are the problem. Don't you understand and see this? The passive-aggressive Brian Williams who think, oh, they're the liberal, and they're not the liberal media. They're the hardcore passive-aggressive kill you media. There are two freaking teams in this country, and they're on the same side. One's the in-your-face, radical, ignorant freaking, you know, people can badmouth Bill O'Reilly all they want. I get a kick out of the guy. I actually freaking got to give him kudos for playing the American public and Rush Limbaugh. They will tell you behind closed doors to your face, we don't agree with one word we say. They played it. They just found a freaking niche and played it. Rush Limbaugh is a full blown out freaking, you know, liberal. I mean, not in the true context of a progressive liberal, but he's liberal. I mean, anti-gay marriage? Really? Elton John sang at his wedding? Which wedding is it? He's laughing, fake, 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 all the way to the bank. Bill O'Reilly. Stephen Colbert. And by the way, Stephen Colbert calls out the mockery beautifully, beautifully. I mean, that guy gets it. You know, he is shallow and weak on his economic background, but his philosophical, oh, he gets it. Oh, and his writers get it. But they don't understand economics. They really don't get history. But the one line on his show, Bill O'Reilly, New York City. By the way, I know people that know Bill O'Reilly very closely. He's old school, you know, Irish Catholic, New York City. And by the way, if anybody who knows any of those people, Megan Rice, they're the real deal. I love those people, by the way. A lot of them are cops. A lot of them are firemen. You know, and they're multi-generation. By the way, my daughter says it perfectly. She says, oh, my God. I used to live in Williamsburg in the old candy store. You know, when Williamsburg was still hardcore and full of real artists before it went Yuppieville. By the way, I was standing in Williamsburg the day that Aaron Swartz, on the same day, January 11th, that my father died. Full of very critical condition. She says, I can't believe it. You leave, it's like I'm the mom. She says, it's Irish freaking firemen in droves, cops, all kinds of people knocking on the door. Ashley, where's your dad? Can he come out and play? Oh, he went home to Utah. Oh, shit. Those guys love me because I talk like they talk. I'll never forget it. She's dating an Irish freaking fireman. I'm on the phone with her. I'm like, are you kidding me? How much does he drink? Oh, you stereotypal bastard, she says. And I says, oh, no, I know too many of the guys. Oh, he doesn't. He's on the wagon. Okay, I'm sneaking into town. So I sneak into town, and her our beautiful friends. These girls, what amazing girls. What amazing group of girls in the old days. They took this old candy store in Williamsburg, and they did it with their own hands and turned it into a little apartment. What a grand, cool place. Right there on the BQE. I mean, gritty, dirty, rotten in the neighborhood, hardcore, the old Italian things where I fall down. I mean, it had what art was. It's over now there. By the way, it's over. So I show up, and they're like, well, unexpectedly, here comes their freaking boyfriend. Got a freaking 12-pack of freaking Bud Light in his arm. I'm like, really? Really? Bud Light? What kind of self-respecting Irish boy is drinking Bud Light? It's disgusting. That's not beer. How do you even call that freaking alcohol? There's no alcohol in it. The greatest advertising campaign in world history, Budweiser. Worst product in history, Budweiser. There's no alcohol in it. It's a placebo. It's water. They don't even, they use rice. They don't use barley anymore. They inject ether alcohol into it. It's not beer. It has no resemblance of beer, just like a lot of our food has no resemblance of food in this country. They took over. So, like, what the hell? But anyway, so we go out that night, and he's multi-generation Irish boy. And he knows I'm interested in it. Ashley schooled him. Ashley's a beautiful, beautiful female. Brilliant female. So we go. He says, let's go to Damascus to the Irish bars. I'll show you the real old school. You got to realize those places stay open freaking pretty well all night. It's late, really late. We go over there. It's right off the boat, the big, beautiful freaking Northern Ireland bartender and the owner. He says, you got to meet these guys. Big, strong, freaking the real deal. You can't understand a word the dude says. And he's talking English. So we're in there, so we order. These guys, him and the Irish cousin from Ireland, they order a Bud Light. So I go on a tirade in the bar. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm a Mormon, boy. Here's my beautiful freaking little Mormon freaking daughter, and we drink Guinness and Patties. Those owners of that bar never forgot it. Oh, my God, do they love me to this day. He says, oh, my God, they're hugging me, taking pictures with it. And, boy, they love my daughter. They love it. And that's the family lines that Bill O'Reilly comes. Bill O'Reilly's an act, 100% an act. He knows he's an act. Stephen, don't you know it's an act? Stephen Colbert, if you're an act, what am I? It's true. They play you guys like a fiddle. They all do it. They all do it. Not all. The Sarah Palins in the world and, the Glenn Becks, they're, low IQ, mentally ill, insane. But everybody says, oh, well, they got a lot of money. They must be. Who cares? Who gives a fuck if they got? There's plenty of data out there that shows the suicide rate, the death rate, the fucking happiness rate has nothing to do with money. That's where everybody's fooled in this country. They think wealth is money. Wealth has nothing to do with fucking money. Nothing. It's been proven by socioeconomists over and over and over and over and over and over. Over and over. It's, in many ways, the opposite. It's the war propaganda machine. Task. State-run media in your up is down, black is white, blue is yellow, red is green, righteous is evil. Think about it here in Utah. Mormons all had long hair, reading scriptures, and beards. Now they have a code. You have to be clean-shaven. You have to wear hairspray. These are the men. Short hair, everything. This is the what? It's complete reversal of everything. Them commies, them freaking Russians. By the way, it was never communist in Russia. Never. A form of fascism, I don't even know what you would call it, but it was a military it was a military complex. The Russians were so pissed. Stalin was so pissed. They were all so pissed about FDR's death, and they lied to them. They got up and walked out on Eleanor and the UN, rightfully so. They understood that the Atlantic Conference had been hijacked, Everything that World War I and II they had fought for and the deal was done had been backdoored by the House of Windsor. They knew that. They knew the UN. The UN was completely hijacked by the new weapon, nuclear. The new weapon, they knew it. They knew the new weapon was nuclear. They knew it took you, and it's not magic. They knew it took uranium mines. Queen quickly acquires all the uranium mines. The House of Windsor quickly started acquiring all the, where's the uranium mine complex? Well, there was a lot of it here in Utah. There's uranium fire in Moab, Utah, underground fire that's been burning for 70 years. Go there and Moab, let's go. Come on, let's go see the national parks. Yay. Oh, what a beautiful place. Let's go run the hills, ride our bikes in the red dust. Cancer capital of the world, bar none, is southern Utah. Of the world. Not even close. Second, the Ukraine. Soon to be the rest of Europe. Europe is not going psychotic at all what's going on. And you think about it. You're meeting with the Germans and the French. Sound familiar? Against right. Putin's not playing ball. Putin is not playing ball. He's throwing a tariff up. Look at the interest rate. He's called the freaking money home. And everybody says, oh, they want to demonize him? The case is being played like a puppet. Being played like a puppet, and they have since 1945. Since April of 1945, the United States has been played like a puppet. Now, there were people who countered. Just kid yourself. There were great progressives who freaking countered in the spirit of TR, in the spirit of Teddy, right here in this town. Go to the Federal Reserve and look who it's named after. I knew him personally. So, they're countering. The greatest middle class in human history was created from 1945 to 1980. By the way, the greatest terrorist in American history, bar none, Benedict Arnold, is a church mouse compared to this guy. His name is Alan Greenspan. Senator Jim Bunny, yes, the Hall of Fame baseball player, the greatest freaking athletes, by the way, I believe to be one of the greatest minds in human history. The last of the great United States senators who were senators for the right reasons. The last great Republican in the spirit of TR. Frank Church, Idaho. Genius. I knew him personally through my family. Family are the giant cattle ranchers from Idaho on my grandmother's side. The other side was the guy who found the gold at Sutter's Mill. Found all the mineral rights, all of them. They didn't believe in inherited wealth. They gave it away. Alan Simpson, who's still alive, the great Republican senator who was there for the right from Wyoming. They're all gone. Jim Bunny, he used to go on the Hill every time Greenspan would get up there. And just, you want to talk anti-porn, him and his wife, he is the freakish human being, ideologue, Ayn Rand. He would follow around freaking New York City tugging on the grass. Ayn Rand, one of the biggest frauds in world history. Again, Russia. She's seen what freaking Lenin did, and not John. By the way, what was Lenin's real name? Where was he hiding in Austria? They took him down. Remember that lying bitch who said she was Anastasia in freaking... Remember, she lived her whole life pretty high. Said she floated down the freaking Rhine, the whole thing. DNA proves she was nothing but a liar. Well, she fit in the right place, didn't she? America, home of the liar. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. That was 1987. Perfect timing, Stevie, from here, Utah, Nix. Amazing. That song fits the year perfectly. Greenspan takes the field. Ayn Rand, on public assistance. Ayn Rand was mentally ill as it gets. She was, but so was TR in a lot of ways. Ayn Rand was a brilliant mentally ill genius. What a writer, huh? Oh my God, what a writer. But she was a science fiction writer. Born and raised in Russia. Hardcore atheist. Never claimed to be an economist. Never one time ever claimed to be. She was not an economist. Science fiction writer. She is to the United States and the Federal Reserve what L. Ron Hubbard was to Scientology. An indoctrinated religion because, by the way, economics is religion. And I can really get into that. But I've been railroaded at the university. The number one school of business in the United States, bar none, that incredible history. Gone. Because why? My anti-war freaking rhetoric in those early days. Got a visit by the CIA. Told to stand down. played blackjack with the 9/11 terrorists, and I could prove it. And I told everybody that. I said, they were in over. I almost got in a fight with them. They stuck out like a sore thumb out there. What the hell are they doing there? Oh, they made their way from San Diego across, and they took the back roads, and they stayed in hotels that they couldn't be traced. It was then. People feel crazy. 5 at our university, Saudi students arrested. I'm like, they're Saudis. You see it, they're Saudis. They're Saudis, they're Saudis, Saudis. Prince Bandar, long before Fahrenheit 9/11. And by the way, and I cannot stand Michael Moore anymore. He makes me want to puke because, one thing, he stood on the stage with that piece of shit Stone, and not Oliver. I love Oliver Stone. He stood on the freaking stage with that piece of shit Pandora Promise, and again, war propaganda machine put out right by the head. Think about CNN playing a full motion picture. You don't think the media's capturing this as we're getting out of that freaking news business? They did that 15 years ago. This is war propaganda, state-run media. This is a fascist state. The United States is fascist, 100%. And I like it how you're going to get your gun to fight these guys back. They're laughing. That is more reflectionary. Get your gold and your guns to fight this. They're laughing. Why don't you take your covered wagon, go out to Bonneville freaking Speed Week and race your covered wagon? They're laughing. It's reflectionary. What are you going to do? Shoot a radio isotope out of the air? They laugh. They pull up all the movements. Occupy. I was heavily involved in Occupy, but I got cancer. Million Mass Man March. Now, by the way, out of all the movements I've been associated with, and I've been a part of them, my gig's called my post-ignorant brain. We fight with our brains, and we fight intelligently. We understand tariffs. We understand the military-industrialist complex. We understand free media. We understand the First Amendment Constitution. We understand NDAA. We understand the Patriot Act and the Illegal Act. We understand the Supreme Court has been hijacked by 2 illegitimate Supreme Court. We understand that. John Anthony and I put that together. John Anthony's idea. And by the way, I want to say this right here now. He's the real deal. So is Katie, his partner that she does a lot of the work in Boston with him. So is Steve Grant. When we met up, so is Michael, who walked all the way from Florida in the inauguration. The inauguration of Million Mass Art, I lead that in Washington, D.C. It's a powerful group. That is a lot of young cubs in there. Somebody says, I bet none of them even know about Fukushima. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'll bet you every single person, verbatim, man and woman and child, know about Fukushima. They know. That is a brilliant group of activists. Everything I've ever been about, that is the most brilliant, genius, strongest that get it. So I want to say this about my friend, John Anthony. I want people to know this, and Katie. They're in the streets. They're the real deal. You might not see it, and you might see it. They're in Ferguson. They're in Ohio. They're fighting this thing. And so, I went to a viewing last night. I walked out of it. This is how pissed off they pissed me off. These guys claim to be human rights activists. They have a movie out called The Throwaways. They're out grandstanding around. I walked out of them. I'm really pissed off. I'm like, oh, really? You guys calling themselves human rights activists use the word dozens, if not hundreds of times. I walk out, sure shit, there's their shirts laying there, and they're talking about slavery. And I says, are you fucking kidding me? These shirts are made in fucking Bangladesh. Do you know about the shirt? And then they claim they're freaking New Yorkers. I went over, and then they started preaching to me about race. And I'm like, really? This is all race, the cops freaking thing? And part of it is, but we get it as a Million Mass March. I says, and he's just trying to tell me about Darian Hunt. I'm like, I'm the only guy that protested Darian Hunt. We lay our swords down. That's Darian Hunt. Darian Hunt had a sword, and that's why he wants to. I says, you don't get it, dude. This county right here, 7 in 10 days, just like this month. We are the cop kill people capital of the world per capita in Utah. There's no one even close to us here in Utah. There are more people killed by cop unarmed in Utah than anywhere in the world by 1,000 times per capita. It happens daily here. And most of the people they kill are white. It's socioeconomic. It's a control freaks. It's the Patriot Act. Homeland Security has fed these. When we were in D.C. protesting hardcore, and you've seen how radical we got, the cops are great in Washington, D.C. The cops in New York City, for the most part, are wonderful people, really wonderful people. The cops in D.C. are awesome with this. The White House security, awesome people, great people. You can ask John Anthony and everybody. We'll all dog coming up to us. Hey, you guys need some water? You want it? The only trouble we really run into, we were hardcore Homeland Security. 3 of us got tasered by Homeland Security. not Washington, D.C. police, none of the Tri-County freaking police departments. They're wonderful with this. They're amazing with this. Blocked off streets. You look at that video I did in front of the Federal Reserve. Watch me span across our beautiful crowd. That is one great group of, that is one important video, by the way, because it shows these powerhouses. I'm telling you, mark my words, it may take time, but 10, 15, 20 years from now, you'll be saying, look who was in that crowd. The most famous human rights activists, because these are the real fucking deal, not these frauds going around with the bug. Because you guys are fucking frauds. You guys are out grandstanding. One of them comes up to me, recognized me, and he's like, hey, I met you in Brooklyn, right? A while back. Yeah. Over at BAM. I says, yeah. I spent a lot of time there. You know what he says to me? You got connections at BAM? We're trying to get in with Spike Lee. What? What? I thought you were a human rights activist. Claimed they were the real deal. Selling shirts made in Bangladesh. By slaves. I said, dude, I says, I could ruin you right now. I could shoot a freaking 3-minute video and destroy you forever. Throw it up on YouTube. How do you guys claim your camera? It's, this is my camera. The footage that's being created in this, this is 2015, the time of YouTube cameras, the time of social media. It's like writers and publicists, they're missing the boat. I'm doing my online literature in real time. That's where literature's headed. They don't get it. They're still trying to Naomi Klein, Chris Hedges, write books in retrospect 5 years later. That gig is over. Don't you see it's over? The greatest genre in human history is YouTube. Now, granted, it's been abused, but it's able to be regurgitated. It's able to be freaking cropped and put back together. Now, granted, I can't get a publicist to work with me and help me. I thought for sure after all these years, my Cassandra-like accuracy, my incredible compelling tell, that somebody would have come along with some money. Say, hey, Kevin, let's put this together. Let's do this. Let's get your book out. Let's get this out. Let's, put this together on a separate website and let's do this. I thought for sure somebody would come forward. I mean, what a compelling story. You should have seen the media press when I was in the hospital dying. You wouldn't have believed it. It was a compelling story. They backed out because I didn't die. And they're still retrospective. I'm an artist. I see it. I'm going to quote Jackson Pollock. How can you continue to paint? How can you continue to do things in the old ways, in the time of the atomic bomb? And I want to tell this to writers, to publicists, to artists. How can you continue to go in the old ways in the time of YouTube and social media, the information age? This is the most powerful time in human history. The information is incredible. You could sit down and spend freaking a few hours on that. You can get what took us when we were going to college, freaking literally years to dig through libraries, to dig through freaking read book after book after book. There are some beautiful documentaries put out. And by the way, people can badmouth PBS all they want. But, remember, they tried to kill. People don't know this, again, because they're late to the game. When Fukushima happened, I was leading up to the 100th anniversary of the Shirtwaist Fire with a massive movement we had put together, which spun into Occupy. And by the way, Occupy was ruined for one reason and one reason. Was it busted up in co-op? Nope. One reason and one reason only. It was stopped. Ignorance. They didn't understand. They're still trying to, and by the way, they were beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I love the occupiers. I still love them. They're great human rights activists. They feed the hungry. They freaking do everything. But when they cannot come up with the solution because of America's ignorant on history, they don't understand Hamilton, they don't understand FDR, they don't understand Lincoln, they don't understand freaking any of these freaking quintessential marquee figures who changed and altered the freaking path of this country. They don't understand Jefferson, they call up him, all of it. What's a tariff? I'm here to tell you until you understand tariffs, and we went the other way. We went to globalization. Well, what has globalization done to you? Look, it's an impossible equation. There's 2 billion, maybe 3 billion workers on Earth. The vast majority of them are slaves. China, India, these so-called third world countries, Indonesia. Slavery is like it was in New York City during the Shirtwaist Fire. Those girls were locked in. It was legal. Hello. It was legal to lock your workforce in there. They burned to death legally. Immoral, oh boy. And did it change the world? Absolutely. Megan Rice, it's illegal to break into Y-12, but she didn't. It was illegal to ride the fucking bus, Rosa Parks. But there are quintessential marquee Americans that take the stand and draw the line in the sand. Megan Rice, Megan Rice, Megan Rice, Megan Rice, Megan Rice. Greg, Michael, they drew a line in the sand. I will quote from the trial. Your Honor, did Rosa Parks break the law? Yes. Did she do the right thing? Yes. Sometimes you got to do it. Now, under the Patriot Act, it's not like the old days. John Goffman stood on the stand in the Northeast. An organic farmer. He's still alive. I've talked to him via emails. They want to build a nuclear reactor there. He's an organic farmer. He blew the towers up as they were building them. He blew the freaking reactor. I mean, think about that. Oh, my God, what? Edward Abbey, who freaking used to mentor me, required reading in 7th grade. Required reading in 7th grade. The monkey wrench game. He would go to Supermax for that today. John Goffman stood on the stand and gave his testimony. I knew Goffman personally. They did to him what they did to Oppenheimer, railroaded him. So, he gets help. He gets a very, very short jail sentence. He would have went to prison for life in this day and age under the Patriot Act. Was it against the law that he did it? Yes. Did he do it? Yes. Did he go to jail for it? Yes. Did Tim Christopher break the law? I know Tim. Yes. Should he went to jail for what he did? No. It was nonviolent. It was very calm. They shouldn't have let him in. He just exposed a flaw in the system and thing. That's all. 2.5 years, labeled as a terrorist. 85-year-old nun who was raised hand in hand with Martin Luther King by the great, Madeline Rice is really, her story is so mirrored to Elizabeth Warren's story. The mama who raised her kids and went back to Columbia and got her degree and rose up and became one of the great professors in modern history, one of the great activists in world history. Megan's mother. I met her through Femen. Well, before it was called Femen. I had a Ukrainian girlfriend. Really beautiful. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I've got several paintings of her. She died of leukemia in 99. Very young, very beautiful, very smart, very intense. She introduced me to Madeline Rice, Megan's mother, way back in the early 90s. That's how I knew Megan. They were the real deal. Guys, she broke into Y-12, which was a very bold, dangerous move. She really expected to be shot. And so did Greg and Michael. Anybody think? You're talking all that plutonium? I mean, the most dangerous place on the earth. 64% of the Manhattan Project at Oak Ridge, Tennessee. It never quit. They desecrated the region. I went all through the whole region. I got incredible photos, incredible videos that I haven't even put up. Amazing ones. It's an amazing place. By the way, Knoxville, Tennessee is awesome. I love that place. I really love Knoxville, Tennessee, I got to tell you. I love their airport. They still have real rock masons, What a dichotomy. Everybody had to pass through that path and came through the history. And, you people who say, oh, this is all Illuminati, whatever, it's all orchestrated. What a crutch. And I don't mean Charles Crutch. Yeah, the TVA artist, that's him. His aunt, the woman suffrage act, right there. I did videos. I mean, it's such an incredible irony. I walk outside of the jail cell, the greatest spiritual, righteous activists in the world sit in trial, and there's some evangelical preachers within feet preaching, some young ones practicing, and I try to tell them about it because they have dogma. They've made up religion. They've made up anything. There's no righteousness left in when she's sitting in the jail cell. No media. This should have been the major story in the world. None. We'll continue this conversation on Tuesday. But America needs to wake up. This is a fascist state. This is a militarized police zone. Tariffs. Tariffs are the only way you break this, and the artists will have to break it. And it will never be the baby boomers. They're too gone. The young baby wolves. So we need you. We need you. You need to come out of your cage and smarten up. Because these baby boomers are gone.
All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. They'll be calling you a radical. Boomgate, 311, whatever you want.